Hello everyone, my name is Matt, also known as the Survivor Guy, and today I am building my own version of Survivor's A Bit Tipsy challenge to test out what the best methods of winning that challenge are. That's gonna be an issue. Alright, well now there's even more of an incentive to do it quickly, because in addition to wanting it at a good time, I also want to finish it before the freaking challenge falls apart. Variations of this challenge have been done over a dozen different seasons of Survivor, and it's been extremely prevalent in the new era of Survivor. And unlike a lot of Survivor challenges, this isn't one that I watch them do and I go, oh, I could do that, easy. This is one that I watch and I go, wow, that looks difficult. And as you watch different people in different seasons try this challenge, what you'll notice is that a lot of them try different things to win this challenge. You see a lot of survivors try and go a little bit faster and risk having their blocks fall in order to make up some time. You see some survivors that go extremely slow out of the gate in hopes that everyone else falls and theirs never falls, and that leads them to victory. We see some people putting blocks in their mouths, some under their chins. So there's a whole bunch of different strategies that survivors have tried with this challenge in order to increase their odds of winning. So I got thinking, well, some of these methods have to have more merit to them than others, so what if I tested out a lot of these strategies so that I could definitively conclude which ones are better than others? You see, on Survivor, you get one chance. You lose the challenge and then you don't win immunity and you could be going home. Here, I can try as many different things as I want because I'm just doing this for fun. If you want your own replica of this challenge, I'm sure there are some that are sold on Etsy. You can find pretty much any Survivor challenge on Etsy for a ridiculous amount of money. But if you know anything about me and my channel, this is a hobby, this is not my job. I don't like spending a lot of money on these things. So anytime that I am going to test out a challenge, I always have to start with building that challenge myself out of things that I have around the house, which usually involves a lot of duct tape and cardboard boxes. And this challenge is no different. So to start building this challenge, I started with the easiest and most important piece of the challenge, which is the giant board that you are going to be stacking your blocks on top of. As always with these challenges, I don't really know the exact measurements. That's not something that Survivor puts on the internet. But from looking through a bunch of videos of people doing this challenge and comparing the heights of all the different parts of the challenge with the heights of contestants, I think I got as close to accurate as I could possibly get. So for the wooden board, what I did is I got out my cardboard box and I measured a length of 30 inches and a width of 18 inches. Once you have your board cut out, the next thing you're gonna wanna do is get out a Sharpie and make a 1 foot square box towards one end of your board. In especially recent seasons of Survivor, they've put this box on the board showing the area that you are allowed to stack your blocks. So in order to make our challenge as similar to Survivor's challenge as possible, we are going to put that on our board, although it's not completely necessary in order for this challenge to be operational. Now that we have our board, the next thing we're going to want to build is this wooden piece that sticks up from the board that you tie your string to, that kind of acts as your lever that you use to balance your board. So once again, I'm going to use a cardboard box. From what I can tell, this part of your challenge is about 1 foot tall. Doesn't really matter how wide you make it, so I'm just going to make it the width that looks about right, and I'm going to make it about 1 foot tall. And then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to attach this at one end of my board. Now, it's really important that you attach these two pieces together as strongly as possible because most of the weight of your challenge is going to be resting on this 1 foot tall cardboard lever that you've built. So what my first idea is to super glue them together and then use duct tape over that. But what I quickly realized is that the super glue took a lot longer to dry than I expected.
Quit drying my ass, bro.
Which led me to sit there for several minutes contemplating my life choices. Eventually, I was able to hold up the cardboard piece with my face so that I could duct tape around it and hold it in place while the super glue dried. This seems like it's a little bit overkill, but again, these two pieces really need to stick together because if they break, your entire challenge falls apart while you're working on it. While you let your super glue dry from your board and your lever, we can get started building the 8 blocks that we need to spell out the word immunity. So since we're going to need 8 blocks, we are going to need to cut out 16 squares of cardboard, one for the bottom, one for the top. From my estimations, each block should be about a 4" by 4" square with a 2" height. So once you cut out all 16 of your squares, you're going to need to find a way to make that 2" height. So what I decided to do, I decided to get some old toilet paper and paper towel rolls, measure out 2 inches, cut 16 of those little tubes, 2 for each of your squares, and then once you have all 16 of your squares and all 16 of your 2" cardboard tubes, you can take 2 cardboard tubes per block, put them in the corners, use some duct tape to fasten them together, and make sure that you put the other square on top to make kind of a toilet paper tube cardboard sandwich. I don't recommend eating it though. Once you have all 8 of your blocks assembled, the next thing you're going to need to do is get the letters for immunity spelled out on your blocks. I decided to just get some post-it notes, write out the letters, and tape them to the sides of the block. It doesn't look super fancy, but we're not really going for super fancy here. We're going for function over style points. Once you have all 8 of your letters, your blocks are ready to go. Now, here's where things get a little bit tricky, because you need to find a way to place that board on top of something where it's free to rotate in either direction, which means you need 2 side supports and some kind of string in between that the board can rest on, which leaves it free to rotate. And I thought for a while about what I had that I could use to create those supports. On Survivor, obviously the whole thing's made out of wood, so it's really easy to just get a plank of wood, hold it upright, and make 2 supporting pieces of wood on either side that holds the whole thing up. And if you do have a little bit more budget and you want to do this whole thing out of wood instead of cardboard, you're probably going to do the same steps, but your challenge is going to come out a lot better than mine. Since I didn't feel like going to Home Depot and spending some money on wood, instead what I did is I took chairs that I had around my kitchen table, and I cut out small pieces of cardboard, taped those pieces of cardboard to the top of the chair, and then I took out my box cutter and I made a little hole in each of the pieces of cardboard that I could put some string through so that the string is taut between my 2 chairs. One little side note here is that you're going to want to make sure those 2 pieces of cardboard are taped to your chair very, very well, because just like with the lever that we super glued onto the cardboard, there is a lot of weight that is going to be on these 2 pieces of cardboard. Even though everything's made out of cardboard, so there's not a whole lot of weight in general, a lot of the weight is resting on those 2 cardboard pieces that you have taped to your chair. So a little bit of extra duct tape never hurt anyone. So now the final step, you want to take your board, you want to place your board on that string that's in between your chairs, about a quarter of the way into the board. So you want most of the board to be on the back side of that string. Then you can take a couple pieces of duct tape. I'm going to recommend taping it in at least 3 spots, because once again, if your board falls off your string, your whole challenge is screwed. So tape at least 3 different points your cardboard balancing board onto that string, and you can test it out with your hand to make sure that it's capable of balancing on that string. Now the last thing you're going to want to do, take your box cutter, poke a hole in your lever, put your string through, tie it in a knot, and then you can unspool about 20 feet of string all the way back to wherever your starting position for the challenge is going to be. Again, 20 feet is just an estimate. It might be a little bit more than that on Survivor, but I also live in an apartment where 20 feet is probably the most that I can get my challenge to be. If you're doing this in like your backyard or something, then you probably have more space and you can make it as long as you want to. And at this point, the challenge is now built, so the only thing left to do is to test it out. Alright, so now that the challenge is all set up, it is time to test it. I didn't think too much about camera angles when I was designing the challenge. I was just thinking, alright, how can I make this as close to what we see on Survivor as possible? So all the way in that corner, that's the board that all the blocks balance on, and all the way in that corner, I don't even know if it's on camera or not, but that's the countertop. So all of the blocks are on that countertop, so I'm going to go from that countertop over to there. So as I'm going through this, obviously, I'm going to try and get the fastest time as possible because I want to win who goes on Survivor to lose. But as I'm doing it, I'm also going to take note of all the little things that I do that kind of make it easier or make it faster so that I can let you know what works and what doesn't work. Alright, so hopefully you can see me on camera. I'm off in the starting corner. All of my blocks are here. Survivor's ready? Go! So the first thing I'm going to do, I know you can't really see it on camera, I am going to spell out immunity using my blocks so that once I'm actually doing the challenge, I don't have to worry about spelling. I can just come back, all my blocks are already in order. Alright, and I'm ready to go. So the first thing I want to do is get my thing nice and straight. And now for this first one, it doesn't really matter if it wobbles all that much because I don't have any blocks on it yet, so you can kind of just run all the way up. One thing that I'm going to say right off the bat, just because I am a physics teacher, so I kind of know the nerdy stuff, they give you a little square where you can place your blocks on that platform. You're going to want to put your blocks as close to the front of that square as possible. The reason is the closer that you are to the pivot point, which is the string that the board is rotating around as you move forwards and backwards, the less force is felt by your blocks. So basically, the closer you put your blocks to the pivot point, the less they're going to shake around, the less they're going to move, which is very good for you when you are trying to avoid your blocks falling over. Okay, so right away, one thing I noticed, you see a lot of times on Survivor, they put the block under their chin like this. Highly recommend. It is damn near impossible to have a block in your hand and also keep both hands on your string. Or I guess rope, if you're using actual Survivor equipment. They have the budget for a rope, I do not. Okay. So it still seems, even with 2 blocks, like you can kind of go faster than you would think. Like if you take a look at my board right now, it's kind of wobbling all over the place. Those blocks are pretty damn steady so far. I would imagine once I get higher and higher, I'm not going to be able to be this reckless with it. But you see a lot of times the Survivor contestants in the first few blocks kind of go with reckless abandon, just go really, really fast, and then slow down later. It's starting to seem like that is a pretty good strategy. Because right now I think it would take quite a bit of a large screw up from me to get those 2 blocks to fall. I guess time will tell if this is a good strategy or not, but this seems way more steady than what I was doing before. Keep your front hand still, slide one hand back, slide the other hand back to meet it. So only one hand is really moving at a time, which keeps your board a lot more steady than if you take your hands off of the string. I feel like it's leaning already. Is it leaning already? Can you see that on camera? Probably not. Camera angles are crappy, but I don't have professional equipment, so we deal with what we've got. Okay. I feel like 4 blocks is at the point where you have to start taking it more seriously, because there's a lot more wobbling going on in my tower than there was up until this point. No. 1 second I took my mind off it because I was like, dang, that floor really creaks quite loud. And I almost lost the whole tower. Alright. So I guess that's a bit of advice. Seems pretty obvious, but don't lose your focus. Can be said about pretty much every Survivor challenge. Okay. Once you get unity in there, things get real wobbly. And a lot of that could be from the fact that I don't think my letter blocks are completely flat. Nope. Jeff would be saying some snarky shit, I just know it after watching that. Jeff would have some kind of comment. He'd be out here like, Matt, minutes away from disaster! He needs to get it together! It's like, Jeff, I'd like to see you try, alright? First of all, I'd like to see you build this thing out of cardboard, and then I'd like to see you try. I bet I could beat Jeff in this. I don't know if I'd win if I was facing off against a bunch of other Survivor contestants, but I could probably win against Jeff. No offense, Jeff, you don't seem like you're exactly a challenge beast. Like, I feel like I'd be hard-pressed to find a challenge that I couldn't beat Jeff in. But the only way Jeff can find out if he can beat me or not is if he puts me on the show. Okay, I need to stop talking and start focusing. Oh, son of a gun. Alright. We got to Unity before we fell the first time, but we did learn a lot. Like, I learned that stepping on this rope is really freaking annoying. This is attempt number 2. Things that we learned from the first time that we're going to want to do to improve this time. Definitely helped having everything spelled out. I didn't think about spelling at all. I was just focusing purely on making sure the blocks are balanced, which definitely helps. Definitely put the blocks under your chin. You need both hands on that rope. For the first 4 blocks, you can go pretty fast. After that, you're going to want to slow down a lot. On the backswing, you're always going to want to have one hand stationary, one hand sliding. When you're moving forward, it's harder to slide, but you still want one hand stationary, grab the head, hold that hand stationary, so on and so forth. So let's see if I can get all of them this time. Survivor's ready. Go. Alright, so first things first, spell out Unity. That cardboard is about to fly off. It's bending way more than it was when we started. It's basically horizontal at this point. It's not even vertical anymore. That's gonna be an issue. Alright, well now there's even more of an incentive to do it quickly, because in addition to wanting to get a good time, I also want to finish it before the freaking challenge falls apart. Son of a bitch. I mean, I got the strategy down. At this point, I might want to just retape the piece of cardboard that's currently breaking off and try it one more time to see if I can just complete it, just so I can say that I got all of the letters in. But I think my janky version is a little bit harder than anticipated. Alright, so let's try this one more time. I've added a bunch of duct tape to reinforce that cardboard piece that almost fell off on the challenge. I've also taken a closer look at all of my blocks to make sure that they are completely flat, because I was a little sloppy with my tape, which led to some of them being uneven, which made it way harder than intended. So I have a little experience. I've tried it twice now. They say third time's the charm, so let's find out. Survivor's ready. Go. We have Unity again. I've never made it past 5 blocks. That all changes right now. I say in a very cocky fashion, knowing full well I could drop all of this and look like a fool. bitch. Oh, that was so good too. Oh, so close. All right, so I think I'm gonna call that a success, even though I only got 6 out of 8 blocks. Given that my entire thing was built out of cardboard, duct tape, and super glue, I think that's a win. From practicing this challenge a few times, there were definitely things that jumped out at me that might not be extremely apparent if you were feeling the pressure of doing this for the first time on Survivor. So the first thing, this one's pretty obvious. I think most Survivor contestants do this, but before you get out there and just start going with your blocks, take a little bit of time to make sure your blocks are already in the right order. That way you can spend all of your time focusing on making sure your blocks don't fall. One of the things that kept getting me and causing my blocks to fall is just for a split second, I would take my focus or my eyes off of the blocks that I'm balancing, and as soon as you do that, they're gonna fall. I think it was the first time that I tried it, I took my eyes off the blocks to look back to grab the next block, and as soon as I did that, whole thing fell. So the next times I was like, all right, I understand why a lot of times on Survivor you see them reaching behind them while keeping their eyes straight, because as soon as you take your eyes off that thing, it's going down. Another thing that was clear basically right out of the gate is the survivors that try and hold the block in their hand and also hold the string in their hand are at a severe disadvantage, especially when you get higher up into the tower and you have more and more blocks stacked. Making sure that you have full control of your hands on that string is super important. So taking the block, and I liked putting it under my chin, but if you got a big mouth and you want to put it in your mouth too, go ahead. Either way, as long as it's out of your hands, then you're definitely in a good spot because you need both of your hands on the rope in order to make sure that your tower doesn't fall down. Now, let's talk about moving on the rope itself. So right away, one of the things that I noticed that kind of surprised me is that going back is way easier than going forward. When you're going back, you're able to slide your hands more easy. So the strategy that I adopted is one hand back, one hand front. So I'll try and get it on camera so you can see. Slide the back hand back while holding your front hand in the same spot, and then have your front hand follow. Then take one step back with one foot, one step back with the other foot. Slide the back hand back, forward hand back, one foot, other foot, and just keep doing that all the way until the end, and your tower should be pretty steady. Now, with going forward, it's a lot harder because you can't just slide your hands back and forth like you can do on the way back. So the same idea applies. Have one hand holding steady on the rope, take the other hand, slowly grab another point in the rope, adjust that hand until the tension is good, let go with the backhand, move that hand forward, move your feet forward, so on and so forth. One general rule that I think is really important to follow, especially as your tower gets taller, is to not move multiple limbs at the same time. And what I mean by that is, if you're moving your right hand now, your 2 feet and your left hand stay put. If you're moving your left hand, your right hand and your 2 feet stay put. So only one hand or one foot should be moving at the same time. Don't move your hands and don't move your feet at the same time. You really, really need very precise movements. And if you're trying to move multiple hands or multiple feet or a hand and a foot at the same time, you're more likely to screw up and have your entire tower come crumbling down. And then the last piece of advice that I'll give, once you have 4 blocks stacked, that's where things get a little bit harder. Getting past 5 blocks was the most difficult thing for me. I think I got 5 in my first 2 attempts, and I got 6, almost 7 on my last attempt. But for the first 4 blocks, you have a lot more wiggle room than you do on the last 4 blocks. So if you're trying to maximize your speed and minimize your time doing this challenge, which if you're doing it on Survivor and you want to win immunity, you want to minimize your time, I would say go faster during those first 4 blocks and then slow down. So a lot of times you see Survivor contestants that go really slow and steady right out the gate, which is a surefire way to make sure that your tower doesn't fall. But in the first 4 blocks, it's not very likely to fall anyway. So I would recommend going a little bit faster and a little bit riskier in the first 4 blocks and then slowing way down to make sure that you don't drop with your next 4 blocks. So even though my challenge was a little bit janky, I still personally learned a lot about this challenge. I hope that you learned a lot about this challenge. If you liked the video, if you could drop a like and subscribe, I would really appreciate that. And if you work at CBS, give me a call. See you next time, everyone.